In this video, you're going to hear 10 accents from around the United States, which you've probably never heard before and will probably never hear again.
Because they're disappearing, they're dying out.
And while I can't stop that happening, who knows? Maybe you can.
And we think by so doing, and if this is very successful, you could demonstrate to the people and to the advertisers your influence with the public. So I said to them, I'm not a gimmick guy. I've never been a gimmick guy.
What an awesome accent from the 1970s. Do you know what it is? If you had to write down the way he spoke, it would look like this. Pity it's just not the same anymore, and I'm really going to test your skills here. Got your accent detector on?
I'll tell you one thing. We always say gum band, and it's a rubber band. And we say stand in line, and everybody else, especially up in New York and New Jersey, I've noticed they say stand on line. When we go in the house, we say we're going into red eye.
A fun summer in 1985. Can you hear a difference yet? It's hard to pinpoint why people spoke like this, but it grew from a huge bubbling cauldron of migrant workers from Europe, and some African Americans and those Scotch-Irish guys. Well, they came up with all the fun words you still hear, like these, and one of those is the city's most famous word.
And the guy come in, he said, boys, I got some bad news for you guys. He was handing us out the pink slips. It was just like a shock, it's like coming to a house, like a tornado hits your house, you come home, there is nothing there. Right. And that's just what Duquesne was. Your job was done.
All I heard was tornado. Nowadays, it's the only area in the US where people still regularly pronounce words this way. It's famous for that.
Like if I was explaining to Yins what I do on Sundays, what my dad does. So 7:45, he wakes up, he goes down to church, St. John Chrysostom. Then he comes home, he puts on his black and gold, heads on down to Heinz Field, meets up with my cousin Natalie Carapinas.
So why is it fading away? I don't know, but the internet, in all its wisdom, voted it as the ugliest accent in America. That was mean, but I've read far worse. I don't even want to say what I've heard, but if people aren't proud of their accents, they're going to change it, aren't they? And there's the famous word. It's the Yinzer accent of Pittsburgh.
Just ran it to me and my dad when the power went out.
Oh, geez, when the power went out? Did all Yin's food spoil? Because my pierogies went bad.
Some say it's too strong to die. Others say it's already gone. If you personally know people who speak like this, I want to hear it in the comments. Why do I care? Well, I'm Ollie Richards. I'm a linguist and an author. I've written a bunch of language books like these, and I've always loved hearing the accents of my students. So when I heard that my favorite accent is in hot water, I was mad. I had to find the truth. So what's next? Out of all the accents in America, can you think of one that sticks out like a gator in a swimming pool?
They had a big hole in close to this place where the woman would wash, and he went in that to take a jump in there, and there was a good-sized alligator, I guess about 8 foot.
They're descendants of settlers who arrived from Nova Scotia in the 1700s, and only part of the state still speaks this way. Basically, country folk with a French twang in their voice.
I don't have any insurance.
I canceled mine too,
I didn't cancel mine.
My wife says, what if our house burns? I said, me, I don't care.
This is what you get when you mix a French-Canadian accent with a Southern American accent. But hear how much milder the accent is now? So what comes next? Because in the old days, they only spoke French, but then it was compulsory to get an English education, so they started speaking English.
I know a lot of y'all know what a couillon is, but if you don't know, I'll explain y'all that. That's somebody that the lights is on, the gate is down, but the train ain't coming, And I got news for y'all. Everybody's family has at least one couillon in it.
This is what the old Cajuns sounded like, a very lovely accent that you'll hear in Louisiana. I don't mean Cajun French. Cajun French sounds like this.
Nous avons commencé l'anglais, and then changer la français, and changer back anglais.
I won't translate because I know you got that. Play it again if you didn't. But then he says something interesting.
Pourquoi ça va venir quand nous avons passé la français, ça va, c'est fini.
Well, that's tragic, and he doesn't have time to sit down with his grandkids and make them learn French if they don't want to. Problem is, nowadays young people are choosing standard English. That's what Instagram and the media influence does, I'm afraid. But Cajun isn't the most endangered accent. There's one accent that's not only doomed, but the very ground the speakers walk on is doomed too. Before I tell you what it is, please help me make sure my channel is not doomed, and subscribe. It's easy, just click like, subscribe, and notifications. Merci. So about that mortally wounded, doomed accent.
My wife, she's been dead 7 years now, going on 8. And I've been living here ever since, by myself. My daughter comes in to see me once in a while.
Sorry, there's no video, but these old recordings are gems. This man was born in the 1800s. Let's fast forward now to the 1970s.
Oh, they work hard. Most people around here work hard, but it's easy living. You don't have the hectic rushing around like you do in other places, especially in big urban or city. Country living, I guess, is a lot more relaxed.
I know it seems really weird that any Americans would sound like this, but if you think about it, even in the animal world, you get some unique creatures that only live in one place and make bizarre sounds. That's what happens when the other birds aren't telling you how to sing, like this guy.
Coral only casting at me all day. She was behind the counter. She said, "It's a Lily Jack." I said, "Who's that, man?"
No, you won't hear this one anywhere else, only on Tangier Island. It's a tiny island community in the sea between Virginia and Maryland. The problem is there are only 400 to 500 of these people left, and the worst part is the sea level is rising and threatening the very existence of the island. The danger is real. Reminds me of that place where there's still a bit of pirate slang hanging about. Wonder if that one's endangered too. By the way, if you think this whole endangered accents thing is new, there was a headline in an Oregon newspaper, American Dialects Disappearing. Know what year that was published? 1960, which is about the same time they started making people say stuff into a microphone 2,500 miles away.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Just fine. How are you, sir? May I help you?
I'm on my way to Jekyll Island. I'd love to have road information.
All right, sir. Perhaps this state map and the routing would be the first thing you'd be interested in.
You know those guys who do research at universities? Well, in this state's main university, they're having a ton of fun comparing modern accents with old ones. You see, back in the 60s and 70s, they went around recording people to see how they talked and got themselves a huge stockpile. So now they listen to those recordings and they say the southern accent fell off a cliff with Generation X.
We have a black director of public safety, a black police chief, a black school superintendent. The president of the Chamber of Commerce is black. And we got such strong black leadership that I think at this particular point, you're right.
Maybe in all of this great tragedy, there will come some silver lining of understanding of the need for families to be closer and more attentive to each other, more loving, more compassionate, that society must pay attention to those who are destitute because of poverty.
So the change from baby boomers to Gen X was dramatic. Why? Well, it had already started changing after World War II when lots of young people moved south to big cities like this, and it's still happening.
As more people are coming in here, we're kind of like gaining new knowledge and like new ways to like say things, and particularly how to like pronounce or enunciate things. So
some people are not at all sad about it though. Are you? Well, if it isn't obvious yet, things aren't looking so peachy down in Georgia. But is this a bad sign for southern accents in general? No, not if country music has anything to say about it. Can you think of another accent that's doing the opposite of dying? Well, guess in the comments. We'll come back to this later. I promised you an accent you've probably never even heard of. Some people say it's all a myth. Others say it's an enigma.
Tough Tony from the Petrera.
Maybe that's it.
Side of the market, side of the slot, whatever.
Yeah, the side of the slot guy.
Yeah.
This one should remind you of Irish English. It used to be a trademark of the Irish American community in a very particular district on the West Coast, where they started settling during the gold rush days. Have a listen.
They used to ask me when they got off the front end of the bus instead of the rear end. They'd say, are you from Brooklyn? I says, no, I'm not from Brooklyn. I'm from Sodom Market.
Later on, there were lots of Jewish people who joined them, and these guys had spent time on the East Coast, which explains why they sound a little bit New York. But it's already changed so dramatically, I really don't think you'll know it. They drop their R's, they say South instead of South, and you're going to hear a lot of glottal stops. Yes, in America.
We've been here since 1933, and we celebrate every year. It's a long time.
What do you think? Pretty cool, huh? But I have some sad news. This accent has been almost completely erased, lost forever. I'll stop keeping you in suspense. When some think of a San Francisco accent, they imagine a way of speaking known as the Mission Brogue, which was huge in the city in the 20th century. Some people still see the Mission Brogue as the quintessential San Francisco accent.
Things have changed. Yeah. Wasn't but a few years ago, though, a sandwich was 60 cents here, I believe.
That's right. You get a shot of bar whiskey, 10 cents.
So what's happened? Well, it's simple. The people who had the accent all left town, and the ones who moved in don't have it. Also, they're mostly dead. Listen, if there's no reason to change the way you speak, don't. In fact, do the opposite. Get curious. Accents are the art in the world of languages, and I don't want to live in a world where everyone's hanging the same paintings on their wall. Rather, save your speaking changes for a whole new language. That's where the real fun comes in. And if you don't know where to find a fun way to learn languages, maybe you'll like the way we do it here at Story Learning. We don't believe in the old-fashioned method, so we use a fantastic method that teaches language through story. It's a unique method I came up with when I realized that stories are the most natural way to remember pretty much anything, and it works really, really well. Whatever language you go for is going to stick in your head. And if you want to know how all this is possible, I've made you a little fun pack that shows you how it works. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code up in the corner of the screen and start having some fun with languages and accents. Okay, I'm not even American and I got all emotional about the next one.
Mommy, you know that story about Mary and Joseph laid on the hay? Bible school teacher learned us, she had it up her day.
Where the baby Jesus lay on the hay?
Yeah.
Well, it's in that book too.
No.
So sweet. What accent is this, do you think? Let's take it back a few years.
Come on, I've got a tune called The Dog Gets Gat. But I want us all to practice. I want to practice the first one. Because we're going to overhear the big sound at that contest, and I'm going to get the first prize.
Well, we may have a record find here. This is 1928, and there's a place in America where legends like Popcorn Sutton still spend their days making moonshine and talking like this.
I wouldn't say it would get any better, but I don't see how it could get any worse.
Low income is not what we are. We're poor people. I think low income is people that maybe has the way of just getting by, but poor people is the ones that don't know where the next dollar's coming from.
You'll hear it in states like West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and it was more than just the Scottish and Irish immigrants who started it. There were Cherokee and Shawnee, African American and Latino. Certain wonderful words out here all point to that.
I feel that white people has learnt more in the past few years from the colored people than they ever learnt in the past 200 or 300 years. The black people has proven to the world that a man has to fight for his freedom.
These mountains are full of colorful phrases. How many of these do you know? But the saddest thing that's happening to Appalachian English is the stigma that comes with it. It's stupid really, but it's making young people leave the area and learn to speak so-called standard American so that they can fit in. All except for this guy, he's bringing banjo back.
My old hand she won't do, she lays eggs for the railroad crew, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes enough for the whole damn crew.
I love it. Honestly, the way Appalachians speak is the coolest thing. It'll be an absolute tragedy for this to disappear, and I say they should keep doing it forever. But the next one, I'm too late to send in my objections. They say it will be completely gone in the next 50 years, and not just because the pirates are long dead.
Talk to people and they'll say, well, you got an Australian accent. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Chances are you've never heard someone speaking this way in real life, or have you?
Well, I wanted to iron the dress to get the crease out of it where it had been taped up. And I went to every suite in that dorm, asking if they had an iron I could borrow. Nobody had an iron. Nobody had an iron.
Some rumours claim that the accent came from Cornish immigrants from the English West Country, but I've heard many arguments for and against, so who knows? I do know it was once the perfect den for pirates like Blackbeard to spy out the ships sailing by, and they had quite the party life here. Before that, it was the hunting grounds of a small tribe of Native Americans. There's a nice clue for you.
I looked at this shooting suitcases, shooting luggage off his one that shoots stuff right hard, So I said, I better get down and catch that. If you don't, they're liable to bust.
What do you think? Sounds quite British, right? Well, the cool part is this dialect is a creation of its own. It was isolated for about 240 years. Hardly anyone even came visiting until the 1950s.
We toured on the South Shore. Last night, the waterford night moonshine, no fish. What you suppose matter is our Uncle Woods?
4 or 5 years ago in London, England, and 2 or 3 people asked me over there did I have an Australian accent?
It's not Australian, okay? It is the last existing British accent in the United States, the Ocracoke brogue.
The wind's blowing really hard. You see, it's blowing harder than a pop car right there,
You take it a ride around the island, you just take a little scud.
But hold on, you can hear another version of this on the nearby mainland.
The crime rate is low, really, and the scenery is pretty. Ain't that many cars and stuff riding back and forth. You can walk up and down the road without worrying about getting hit by a car.
So this is Hyde County, a place people call the backwoods of North Carolina. And I was warned that the islanders won't like it if we say they have the same brogue as them. So we won't. Together they are called Outer Banks brogue. But why is it in danger? Well, the numbers don't lie. There are probably only about 150 people who have this accent, but they're not planning on losing it. So who knows? But, here it comes, no stopping their teenagers from hanging out with all the tourists. By the way, do you realize that listening to different accents helps you hear details better? You should care if you're trying to learn a new language. You could get really good at being able to understand native speakers. Okay, brace yourself. You won't want to believe the next one. Are you ready?
It's a pretty good store. I think it's all right. I got a good boss over here. He treats me good once in a while.
How are the wages?
What?
The wages, the money, how much do you earn?
I don't like talking about that.
Oh, all right.
What's this? Could it be? I will give it to you straight. Even an iconic traditional accent can dramatically change if you water it down enough. And the originals of this city are just not the same crowd anymore. But what a fun accent it is.
Where is the soul? It's inside you. Where? It moves all around. It's not attached to anything. Well, it can't be attached to you. Otherwise, it couldn't fly out of your body and go to heaven when you croak.
If you're wondering why they spoke this way right from the early days, not pronouncing R's and all that, it's because most of the English speakers came from South London at a time where Londoners started this trend because it was considered distinguished to do so, and it was still going strong in the 1980s.
Nice people, good, hard-working people. Good ethnic groups, nice restaurants.
Beautiful. All this hood stuff is exaggerated.
Oh, yeah. Don't pay no attention to it. I lived here 63 years. Walk the streets, mind your business.
Yeah, it's all true. The accent of Brooklyn in New York is changing fast.
I am from Brooklyn, New York. What I miss is not the language, but the dialect. The Brooklyn accent is gone.
What happened to it? Where'd it go?
I went to California and I purposely lost it to fit in.
He's not joking. This is happening. It's pretty sad, but losing your accent has become part of a big business. That's what all those accent reduction people are advertising.
Where did it go? It goes where everything goes. It goes away.
As for that one accent that's unlikely to go anywhere, what was your guess? Well, I'll tell you. It's the way inner city African Americans talk. The ethnic identity is so strong, their accents are just getting stronger and even drawing outsiders in. You must be relieved if you got this far and your accent was not mentioned, but I'm not done yet, and you should probably ask yourself, is my accent about to die? Well, I hope not, but keep watching just to be sure.
The Salvation Army ran a beautiful thing. And it was only coffee and donuts. There was no drinking and soda and music. All night you dance, dance, dance.
1931. Hear how she said soda?
Soda.
Lots more where that came from. It's a very recognizable twangy accent that people love to imitate, but we're going to keep it real.
There was a water fountain in the ferry house, and it smelled and tasted like the intake pipe went right through the floor into the river.
This accent has a distinct sound and deep roots in American history. It's pretty intriguing stuff if you want to become a researcher. And then along came the 80s punk rockers.
The music is your thought train, and it makes your body move, you know? But if you have a good slam going, there could be like as many as like 40 or 50 people out there just like doing it.
This city has everything, but their accent is the most studied accent in the US today. And you know what? I think it may be in a spot of trouble because they're taking it seriously, analyzing people's speech patterns and so on. But the best part is they started doing this study more than a century ago. It's crazy. 1 million measurements later, all I know is 2/3 of the vowels in this accent are changing as we speak, and they're blaming women for leading the accent changes. Why? Tell you what, I'll leave that answer to you for now.
Everybody's like, yo, where's this at? Like, nobody had like a direct like location. So I was like, look out my window, I see a bunch of cops. I'm like, bro, that's right by my apartment.
Well, he definitely has not lost the accent. Want to try a quick experiment? Say snake in the grass, and then say it again with your mouth wide open. Oh wait, go on.
A few moments later.
Hear your new pronunciation of snake? Well, that's exactly how it happens. Now let's rewind the time machine to meet a legend.
You're a crumb creep. I want to fight you. But you don't have the courage. You're a real crumb bum. Put that on camera.
Now I have it on good authority that a crumb creep was a bad one. The days of good insults, huh? And I'm pretty sure nobody wants the Philadelphia accent to die, so you'll be happy to know that while the Philly accent is changing, it's not disappearing as fast as the others. But with each generation, there's a slight difference. That's how it goes. I will just pray they'll be wrong about the next accent, because it's my favorite. And if this one goes, wait, can they kill this accent?
Well, I think the mini will be here to stay. I think it's here to stay, and the Maxi's just a fad, maybe for a while. And I don't think it'll stay in very long.
Remember what I just said about women and the accent change in Philly? Well, guess what? It's happening here too. The local university is tracking this like a scout on a trail. People are writing weird stuff like popular accents are eroding the iconic twang. And I can't say what popular means to you, but a certain Californian accent was mentioned.
That's the reason why that I don't let more of them see me than are able to do so. is because most of it is pressure. There would be pressure from some of the members of the legislature.
Well, isn't that something? It's only 1970, but if you ask me, this guy's trying to avoid the twang, which is not the way you're supposed to do it in Texas, is it?
As I got up in high school, I got to thinking, well, so many days these fellas are all going to be gone. Them old stories be gone with them, you know. So I enjoyed them. I thought I'd write them down. Somebody else might enjoy them someday.
That's more like it. But if you trust the UT News, it seems like younger Texans are abandoning the diphthongs and stifling their twang. Why? To avoid sounding uneducated. Don't shoot the messenger. You got to admit, they just don't sound the same in Dallas anymore.
I would absolutely recommend Bishop Arts. By far, the atmosphere, the community, the sense of like a small town you get in Bishop Arts is pretty unmatched. It's the best place.
But I don't think this fight is over. Texan pride is huge, and the Texas accent is alive and well. In my next video, we've got the wildest accents from every corner of Texas. Go and check it out.